Welcome to Washington in Focus Daily. It is Tuesday, May 26th, 2026. I'm Carlene Johnson, the Center Square's state government reporter. And in today's episode, did you see what Los Angeles mayoral candidate Spencer Pratt posted about dealing with, or how he will deal with, the drug-addicted homeless population in that city should he become mayor? Well, he wants to send them to Seattle. We'll share some of those comments with you. Then more from my interview with a successful Washington business couple making potential plans to leave the state of Washington because of the cumulative tax burden, including passage of the state's first income tax. And they're Democrats. And then Representative John Lee of Vancouver has a warning about how high tolls could go on the yet to be constructed Interstate Bridge Replacement Project connecting Oregon and Washington. This is the bridge over the Columbia River that they're going to build. Well, remember, the latest plan is to toll the old bridge well before the new bridge ever opens up. Those tolls may go a heck of a lot higher, Representative Lee contends, than what we have been told. So let's dive into today's episode. Spencer Pratt, candidate for mayor in Los Angeles. He's been all over social media, gaining a lot of traction in the polls. He's got a plan, he says, to deal with the drug-addicted homeless population in LA. He says he'll ship them to Seattle, where he believes that Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson, will gladly accept them. So here's part of what he told a reporter from ABC7 in LA.
These 40,000 people, 60% of them, City Watch just announced this week, are not from Los Angeles. They're not from California. These people have been bussed in by scam rehabs, scam NGOs, scam homeless nonprofits. These people, when I unplug them and say, we're not taking our tax money anymore, they're all going to Seattle, where the mayor will welcome them. These are products to a lot of people. So the people that want to keep doing drugs and live on the sidewalk, a lot of these people are going to leave.
I did reach out to the office of Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson today for comment on Pratt's suggesting that he'll send all of the homeless, drug-addicted folks from LA up to Seattle. Did not receive a response back in time for today's podcast recording. Now, sharing more of my conversation from last Friday with Chris and Riley Lear. They are owners of a fitness and recovery equipment business called Teeter, located in Bonnie Lake. They have these cool inversion tables that tilt you back to, kind of help with spinal and joint issues. That's just one of their many products. That's kind of how they got started as a family business many, many years ago. They are lifelong Democrats for the most part. They told me very candidly. He's from Chris Lear, I should say, is from Canada. He says he, kind of still ascribes to those values and believing that sort of healthcare is a right and that kind of a thing. But because of the income tax on top of everything else they have faced trying to keep their business afloat, they may end up having to move not just their residence, but their business out of the state of Washington. They shared with me that surviving COVID and having to lay off, 2/3 of their staff, followed by tariffs and just higher business taxes in the state of Washington. And now the coming income tax, it has driven them to the brink.
We could either buckle down and reinvest in our business and come up with a new innovative product and then keep driving forward, or we can just see what happens as it is.
Well, I think
we can reinvest and keep pushing, or we can.
The problem is we can't do that because we've been kicked in the teeth so many times. Like tariffs kicked us in the teeth.
Well, before tariffs, it was shipping costs. Shipping costs went through the roof and took all the profit. Then interest rates took all the profit. Then tariffs took the profit. And now oil prices are taking the profit.
Right.
So it's kind of like, it's hard to know what to do, really.
I think any business that is making it through these COVID to now times there should be some support. Like I said, we went from 60 staff to 20. People, I'm interviewing people right now, and it's a tough job market out there. People are like, I've been searching for a while. You want to see more stabilization of the economy, supporting the businesses is going to get us there, not beating us down and trying to scrape more away from us. There's nothing else to give. We have literally been bled dry, and there should be some grace.
Now, the couple shared with me that Washington Democrats who pushed passage of the millionaire's tax, it's the so-called millionaire's tax, because at this point it is only going to be, starting in 2028, a tax of 9.9% on income above the $1 million threshold, or combined household income above that threshold. But many believe it will, be lowered to eventually be a tax on all income levels in the state of Washington. But they explain, even though they're not, gazillionaires, they have an S corporation. What happens with that business setup is that your business income shows up as personal income on your tax returns. So they were explaining to me that because they, have these large pieces of equipment that are stored in their warehouses, you might have, $350,000 or more of inventory sitting there in your warehouse. Of course, you're not making money on that. It hasn't been purchased by anyone, shipped to anyone, but it's sitting there ready to go. Um, may have shown up on a tax return as, made $2 million that year. But again, all that inventory is sitting there. So it looks like you had this great year and you're going to get taxed by the millionaire's tax when really you haven't made that much money. And remember, their business, as many others have told us, are coming off of some really tough, very lean years. And you don't get to count those losses from previous years against one good year that might have shown that you made all this money. Some other prominent entrepreneurs who have recently spoken with us at the Center Square about, their plans to potentially leave the state include Bulwark Capital Management Principal and CIO Zach Abraham, and also Venice AI founder Jesse Proudman. Both said the state's new income tax is really pushing them to potentially set up residency and look to relocate their business operations outside the state of Washington. Now, remember, a lawsuit has been filed challenging the constitutionality of the income tax, and Let's Go Washington is currently gathering signatures for a campaign effort. They hope they'll get enough signatures to qualify for the November ballot to put a repeal of the income tax before voters this November. Now, a leading critic of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Project, the IBR project, who describes this project as a light rail project in search of a bridge. This is Representative John Lee of Vancouver. He says this multi-billion-dollar exploding in price price tag for this project is really a boondoggle. And I spoke this morning with Representative John Lee about his criticisms of the project, not just the price tag, but basically saying, okay, this thing might now cost 14 to 15 billion dollars now, with construction, most recent estimates say, to begin somewhere in probably 2028. But tolls are going to be implemented on the old bridge as soon as the first, shovel of dirt is turned on the project. He's also very concerned about what those tolls will eventually look like. And then complicating all of this, he reminds us, is a vote taken by Oregonians a week ago today, when they repealed a recent gas tax hike and other fees that were implemented by Oregon lawmakers and Oregon Governor Tina Kotek.
On May 19th, 83% of Oregonians, every single county in the state of Oregon, rejected that tax increase for transportation, gas tax and all of that. And tolling is prohibited throughout the state of Oregon other than the I-5 interstate bridge. Doesn't mean they couldn't come back later on, but from a standpoint of the I-5 bridge, the IBR, that becomes a challenge on the Oregon side. It is permitted, but Oregonians clearly don't want to pay the tolls.
Now, Representative Lee believes there's no justification at all for putting light rail across the new bridge, which is in large part the reason why the price tag has gone so high. And he also says that the current toll estimates, which we are seeing, that'll be anywhere from like $1.55 to $4.40 one way across the bridge. So in theory, you'd pay that if you want to get back home. You'd pay that twice in a day. But he says that really isn't the full picture, because there are estimates now that show, and laws that have been passed that give, at least on the Washington side, a lot of leeway for increasing that toll. Here's part of that conversation with Representative Lee.
In that the language that allowed tolling on the I-5 interstate bridge said you can charge up to the highest toll allowed in the state of Washington. So when the Transportation Commission approved tolling increase from $10 to $15, the maximum toll they could charge on the IBR became $15 instead of $10. Now they're talking about, at some point in the future, don't know when, but we need to increase it to $18. Guess what? They can come back and charge up to $18 per toll. The I-5 Interstate Bridge project should be equated to the California high-speed rail project. It is an out-of-control transportation project that is going to deliver zero, absolutely nothing. If I say, picture the California high-speed rail, you get a picture of a rail line that suddenly drops 100 feet to the ground with no train on it, no tracks on it, nothing done, and the project is $100 billion unfunded, behind schedule, all of that. The IBR is just cut that by 10-fold, 15-fold. It's the same thing. They including a $3.5 billion light rail that is 23% of the whole project. The whole project has exploded from $3.2 billion to now potentially $17-18 billion. And it is there primarily to fund light rail coming from Portland into Vancouver. Almost nobody wants it. It will remove almost zero cars off the highway. They're going to toll it to create a new source of revenue. The tolling is going to cause 40 to 50,000 vehicles to divert. It is a total mess, and it is a ripoff of the whole state of Washington.
Clark County today put up a poll after this latest price tag came out for the project, and here are the results from that. It was admittedly a pretty small sample. They only got about 226 respondents before they closed the poll, but worth noting that more than 49% of the folks that voted said scale this project to match available funding, which of course we don't have the available funding on this now. 7.5%, only 17 votes. People said keep the current scope and seek more funding. And another more than 41% of the votes said pause the project until costs are clearer. So a lot out here on this, and a lot still to come, because we're still 2 years away from this project potentially breaking ground, and when tolls would begin on the old bridge to pay for the new bridge, which for now does include light rail. That's it for today's episode of Washington in Focus Daily. Check out the Center Square Washington page for more stories like this. As always, appreciate you watching, and I hope to see you again on Wednesday.